So the way that today's going to work is I'm going to take you through step by step to recreate your own version. So this isn't about taking Van Gogh's painting of Starry Night and following it, like copying it line for line. This is taking his idea, his concept, and kind of his layout and creating your own version. So you can make it as bold as you want. You can make it as intricate and detailed as you want. You can really kind of make it your own. So everybody's pictures at the end of this are going to look different. And that's good. That's okay, because that's the whole point of art, that it's unique and that it's you and it's your way of expressing yourself. So has everybody got a big piece of paper and some round things? Now, if you're a grown-up, don't be patronized. If you are happy to freehand your circles, that's absolutely fine. But for our younger members, it would be really cool if you've got some random things. So I've got a speedy cup. It's one of my children's. Don't tell them I nicked it. It's just a plastic cup, but it's obviously a small circle on one end. Oh, that's a bit light. And a bigger circle on the other end. I've got a lid off of a Pringles tube, I believe. I have a little tea light candle. I have a little roll of insulating tape. Works. I have a 2p piece. So I have lots of just little random things that I can use to draw some of the circles, because circles are hard, guys. Even for us grown-ups, drawing a perfect circle is hard going. And you're going to need something to color with. Now, it could be anything. It could be pens, it could be pencils, it could be crayons, pastels, paints. So it really is up to you what you use. And if you wanted to recreate this again another time when you have more time to do other things, you could do it as a collage. So if you've got like ripped pieces of paper or cut up mosaic squares, or you can really do it however you want. But we're not going to be focusing on cutting and sticking today, because that's a whole different project. So today I'm going to be doing mine with watercolors, but you can do yours with whatever you've got, and so you can follow the color guide. Or you'll also need a pencil. A pencil is very important for creating your layout. We need some round things. We need a big round thing, your biggest round thing to start with. Now, when you're drawing your sketches, what I would recommend is that when you're doing your pencil work, you only do it quite faintly. You obviously need to see it, but you don't want to press too hard with your pencils, because you don't want dark lines showing through when you add your color afterwards. So get your biggest circular thing, whatever it is, and put it in the top right-hand corner and draw around it. This first part is really quite a simple, these are simple steps. That's the whole point of this class. It's super simple. So you just follow where I'm putting circles and follow the lines. And then in the second half, when we start adding color, that's when you can really, really make it fancy and make it your own. Now, can you see my lines? You can't see my lines, can you? This was what I was concerned about. Okay, what I'm going to do to make it easier so that you guys can see, I am going to use a marker pen. I'm going to use a different pad. I'm going to use a marker pen to show you the lines and show you where to put your circles. But you obviously don't use marker pen. I'm only using it so that it shows up on camera for you guys to see, okay? You use your pencils. So top right-hand corner with your first circle. Now mine aren't going to be exact because I'm not going to put permanent marker around all of my little circle things. Right, you can all see that circle, can't you? Can everyone see? Give me a thumbs up. Good, good. Thumbs up. Awesome. Right, and inside that big circle, you can either use a smaller circle or you can freehand a moon. We're going to do a crescent moon shape in the middle. So we're going to do kind of a part of a moon in there. So you've got your circle, you've got your crescent moon in the middle, in pencil, remember. And then what we're going to do is we're going to work along the top of this page. So probably using the top third of the page, we're going to add stars, okay? So it's up to you how you kind of work this out. What I normally do is I go back over to this corner and use probably a medium circle. You don't want it to be as big as the moon. You want it to be slightly smaller. So if you have a medium-sized circle to draw around, about that sort of size. And if you happen to have a really small circle, if not, you can freehand the small circles, because small circles are easier to do without something to draw around. And what we're going to do is we're going to add lots of different sizes. These are going to be the stars. Now, in Van Gogh's original painting, his don't look like the spiky stars that you see when you're drawing stars. So his are generally balls of light in the sky, which is kind of what stars look like if you actually look at them up in the sky. So we're going to do lots of different sizes. Now, I'll show you where I put mine, and you can pick the things that you have to draw around to draw yours. So that it's a bigger circle and a little circle inside. Now, the reason that we do the inner circle is because that's going to be a different shade of yellow when we come to paint it. We're going to have a slightly bigger one again over here. We don't want to fill the entire sky, but we want to have a nice selection of stars. So you can put yours kind of where you want, but you want to follow a similar pattern to where I'm putting mine, because underneath we have other things to fit in. So it's a kind of a wobbly line of stars that go across the top of the page. We'll put a bigger one in here. So the next step is to start putting some of the swirls, excuse me, the swirls into the sky. Now, you don't have to be exact with this. They're basically just going to be kind of swirly, wavy lines that go across from the left to the right. But there's quite a few different lines, and when we come to color them, that's where different shades of blue will go. And so I'll give you the basic line to follow, and then when you come to color it later on, you can kind of add your own techniques in. The whole point of this art is that we can just have fun. There isn't any rules, there's no pressure, there's no rush. It's just creating something really pretty, and in creating that space where we can just relax. It's not meant to be stressy or pressurized. So I'm going to move on to the next step, and we'll start putting the swirls on. So what we want to do is start underneath this first star that you have on the left. We're going to start quite closely underneath it, and we're going to kind of come down and across. We're going to go under this other big star that we had and up to fill some of that space. And we're going to come round and we're going to do a swirl. And we're going to go back. And we're going to go back across and up there. Okay, so we've got our first swirl. I realize that my verbal directions may not be as easy to follow as my drawing, so that's why I've obviously got the camera on the page so that you can see what I'm actually doing. And then what we're going to do underneath this swirl is we're going to do the other part of it. So we're going to start in the middle and we're going to come around. So by this point, we've come just below the halfway mark on the page, really. And we create another swirl. And we join it on like that. Your swirls don't have to be exact. They can be slightly different shapes, as long as they kind of follow that line. The whole point is that most of this picture is going to be rounded lines. It's going to be swirls and waves. It's a very flowing piece. So it doesn't have to be exact. And obviously when you add your color, you can sort of blend colors. You can adjust things a little bit. These lines that we're putting down are your guidelines so that you can then create your masterpiece on top of them. It just gives you an idea as to where you're going to be putting certain colors. Then what we're going to do is on the left-hand side, right underneath where we've started this bottom part of the swirl, we're going to add a couple more of the little stars. So a couple of small circles with little circles inside. like that, two next to each other. And then we're going to leave a space, probably, well, 3 of my grown-up fingers, so maybe 4 of your little fingers. Basically, where this this part of the swirl comes in, this bigger swirl, going to do another small star there, like so. So we've left this gap here, and there's a reason that we're leaving this gap here, because there's another part that comes down through those stars. Now you might find at some points that some of your lines overlap, and different parts of the painting kind of overlap, but that's fine because these are just guidelines, and obviously when you add color you can go over those lines and nobody's really going to see them, or you can always rub out bits at the end before you start adding color. And then what we're going to do below this small star here, we're going to do a medium star. So grab your medium circle and then your smaller circle in the middle. Now what we're going to do is, although we have more swirls and things to add across the sky, we're going to work on this big piece. Now there's a bit of debate in my house as to what this big bit of the painting is, because if you've seen the original painting, there's this big dark spiky thing on the left hand side. Now I think it is some part of a tree. I think it's a broken tree. It's bark. It looks very much to me like a very old tree. My daughter thinks it's a mountain. So yeah, we can interpret it however we want, but there is a dark spiky thing that goes on this side of the painting. So we're going to start at the very top. Are you guys ready? We're going to start up here next to our big star on the left hand side, and you guys can follow my lines. So we're going to come down. Now obviously I'm using marker pen and I've gone across these lines, but you don't worry about that. Come down. Remember, these are not straight lines, these are wavy lines, okay? And they're going to have little spikes. Now you can kind of put your spikes wherever you want, really, but there's lots of little spikes. And it comes down and around the stars, because you don't want to go through them, so around the stars kind of helps to give you those smooth and rounded edges if you follow where the stars are. And just kind of wavy, all the way down to the bottom of the page. Okay, move my pad up a little bit so you can see the bottom. And then we're going to go back to the top and we're going to do the other side of it. So wavy. We're going to come down. Now remember, we've got some spikes on this side, but the spikes on this side are going to be in different places because, as I say, I think it's a tree, and no tree has symmetrical branches as far as I know. They all kind of grow where they want to grow. So some spikes on this side. And as you come down, you'll notice it gets wider. So it's small and pointy at the top, and as it comes down, it gets a little bit wider and wider till you've got a big fat base at the bottom. And then one final spike and down to the bottom. So now we're going to start filling in this space over here, this corner, because there's only a little bit of space here. So what we'll do is at the very bottom, I don't know if you can see it behind my name, we're going to just draw a little bush, just like a little plant. You can just make it as a, for your guidelines, it can literally just be like a cloud almost. We're just going to have a bit of greenery down here. So a little bush. A spiky bush, little roundy bush, whatever kind of bush you want down there. And then we're gonna come to the top, not quite as high up as the stars, probably about well, halfway we have a line, so a little bit above halfway. And we're gonna go like that, a little hill. And we're going to come to the other side of our spiky tree. And it might mean that you've got some little bits in between the spikes that you can fill in. But this line is going to follow all the way across the page. So underneath the big star, and then up towards the swirl, very close to the swirl, wibbly, wavy lines. These are all, this is where the sky is meeting the hills and the horizon. So part of this is going to be sky, and part of it is going to be hills and things in the background. So there we go, up towards the moon. Then we're going to come back over to this side, and a couple of fingers down, we're going to draw another wavy line, but it's not going to be the same because we don't want all the lines to be the same. So extra wibbles. We're going to follow the same kind of line though. We're going up. There'll be some little down bits. Now I'm leaving a little gap here because I don't want to have to draw over it in a minute, but you guys just keep going because your pencil can rub out. So you keep going, wibbly, wibbly, all the way over, wibbles everywhere. There we go. The more wibbles and wobbles and wavy bits that you add in, the more interesting and more textured that your painting will become, or your picture will become. I need to stop calling it a painting because I know you guys aren't all using paints. And then one last line across. So about halfway between that line you've just drawn and where your little bush at the corner is, another wavy line. And then we're going to come in now. Obviously over here, you've got a little bit of space if your spike is in roughly the same place as mine. So we squeeze that one in there. We keep going across. Up and down, up and down, up and down, and over to the edge. Okay? Now, this bit at the bottom is where, for little ones, it can get a bit tricky because on the original painting, this is all covered in buildings and a church. So there's lots of houses or what look like sort of farm buildings. Obviously we can't be exactly sure because we don't know what the buildings were. But what I've done is I've created some kind of simple buildings. Now in the painting there's loads and loads of tiny little buildings, but because we're keeping it simple today, we're going to do a few slightly bigger buildings. Okay, now if you guys already know how to do like 3D shapes and 3D houses, then you crack on, because basically we need a strip of buildings across the bottom. But if you're not sure, I'll draw mine in and you can have a look. Now the first one I'm going to do is kind of the important one because it is the feature of all of the buildings. It's the building that has a spire, which I'm assuming is some kind of church. Now this is why I left these little gaps here, but because you guys are using pencil, you can just sketch over it. So I'm going to start, oh, my marker pen's running out. I'm going to start with a tall, thin triangle. I'm going to do a couple of lines coming down, almost like a rocket. And we're going to attach it to a building at the bottom. Now, when I was doing this with my daughter, we were going through naming all of the shapes. We were naming like parallelograms and pentagons and trapeziums when we were creating different shaped buildings. So if you do your, what was the other one? Rhombus? Well, that was like, yeah, rhombuses are like diamonds. You literally just keep it super simple because these are just your pencil guidelines. And then you can just add a little arched window, something on the end. And we're going to just do a few more buildings in the same way, just really simple. So we do, this one's going to be like a triangle or part of a triangle with another triangle underneath. So that's like your roof from the end. Your lines down, we'll give this one a door because it's the end, and a roof across like that. We want to try and keep the lines nice and simple. As I say, these are guidelines. When you do add your paint or your pens or pencils, you can add as much or as little detail as you want to. So for the younger ones, they can literally just color these in as they are. For the grown-ups, obviously this will be your opportunity once we finish the guidelines, where you can go in and add more texture. You could add in roof tiles, you can put in little window ledges under the window and doorknobs on the door if that's what you want to do. But this really is just a super simple way of giving you the layout to then create your own masterpiece. So over here, we're going to do a few more buildings. So we're going to have one like really in the foreground. So all you can see is just the roof. You can put your houses in different places if you want to, but they all kind of just go in this bottom part. We have another building over here. You know what, guys? Drawing with a marker pen is actually trickier than it looks. I'm used to drawing with a pencil, not a chunky marker. This one's got a slightly wider roof because not all buildings are exactly the same. Some buildings are bigger, some are smaller. And this one will have a little window on the side. In fact, we'll put a little window ledge on that one. And the door. Another building over here. There's a little gap there, so we'll put one more in there. Some more windows. Okay, so we've got a little collection of different sized buildings, different houses, the church. Just sketch in your basic shapes. And what we're going to do, as we did in the bottom left hand corner, in the bottom right hand corner, we'll just put another little bush. There's more greenery over this side. And in this gap around the buildings, in the original painting, there's a lot of like farmland. So it's entirely up to you here what you fill it with. If you want to separate it out and kind of create different fields, like the brown fields, the green fields, yellow fields, things like that. Or for the younger ones, what I've done in the past is actually to fill it with circles. And it might sound strange, but when it's all actually coloured in, if you just draw lots of circles, and because they're smaller, they're easier to draw freehand as well if you want. Or you can use your templates, your round things to draw around. If you just fill it with circles, and then once it's done, you can color those circles in green, in different shades of green. You could do some in brown or yellow. You can really kind of sort of pick whatever colors you want, but they're generally quite kind of earthy colors. And it's just a fun way of filling in that space without actually having to put huge amounts of detail in. So I guess you could say that our version, or our way of doing this today, is even more of an abstract way than Van Gogh's. I mean, you can see from his painting what his things are, but the whole point is that it just gives you that vibe of fields and farmland and things in the distance behind the buildings. So it's up to you. As I say, you can draw in little squares and add lines and things to make them look like fields that the farmers have worked in. Or for the younger ones especially, you can just make it an abstract piece of kind of green land or brown land. And it just kind of meets behind the houses. There we go. Now I have to decide at this point which painting I'm going to paint, because if I paint this one, it's going to look very different to how I would have painted it with my watercolors, because it's now covered in permanent marker. But for the purposes of this workshop, it may actually be a good idea. So let me just rub out some of my guidelines that are on here now. So what I'm going to do then, I will add color to this one, because this is the only one that you're going to be able to see, rather than me painting it again from scratch, which, believe me, I have done many, many times. This is one of my all-time like favorite paintings, and I have replicated it and done my own version so many times in so many different mediums. I've lost count. I've painted it as a mural on my wall in my lounge. I have done a pastel version of it with oil pastels. I've done it in watercolors. I've done it in pens. I've even, not that it's finished yet, but I've even started stitching it as, what would you class it as? It's not cross stitch. It's more kind of long stitch, but it's kind of free stitch, because I'm just, it's almost doing it like a tapestry, but I'm just kind of following the shapes and filling in the spaces with stitches. So at some point I'll get around to finishing that, and I'll upload it onto my page so that you can see it. Now I'll still go ahead with my plan of using watercolors and hope for the best. Because it's permanent marker, it shouldn't bleed. If it does, well, we'll have an even more interesting result. So we need a couple of different shades of blue. Have you got like a light blue and a dark blue? Grown-ups, if you're using paints, obviously you can mix them to get various different shades. If you're using pens or pencils or crayons, it would be really helpful if you have at least two shades, at least a dark and a light. If you happen to have like a mid-tone blue as well, even better, because then you can add in more different shades too. Now, yeah, so a couple of shades of blue, and either a dark yellow and a light yellow, or if you only have one shade of yellow, you could maybe go for a yellow and an orange. Yellow and blue are the main colours that are on this piece, but then obviously as we come down to the bottom, as I said earlier, there are some greens and some browns and a few places where we can add a little bit of black just to kind of give it a bit of depth as well. Now, generally, the rule of thumb is when you are creating pieces is that you work light to dark. And it makes sense for multiple reasons, but it's mainly if you're using paints, because you don't want your water pot to get filled with dirty water too quickly, and you don't want to kind of get dark paint all over the place. So where's my paintbrush gone? There it is. So we're going to start with yellows. We're going to do the stars at the top of the page first, okay? The stars and the moon. Now, it's up to you, but the way that I did it is I put the darker color, the darker yellow, as the center point. So the small circles that you've got inside and the crescent moon inside the moon, I've done those as a dark yellow. And then we use the lighter yellow for the bigger circles around them, okay? So, yeah, let's start adding some color. So the reason that I put the dark in the middle and the lighter on the outside is because if you imagine a star is kind of shining bright, when you look at it, or when you look at the moon, you have got that kind of concentrated color in the middle, and then as the light gets emitted from the stars or the moon, the light kind of fades into the sky, so it kind of gives it that glowing, fading kind of effect. Right, some paint on my brush. So I'm going to start by putting dark yellow into the middle of my stars. Oh, see, I've got marker pen, which is going to be, I wonder if I could go over it. See, I class myself as an experimental artist. because every time I create a piece, I try something different or something happens that hasn't before, and I just roll with it. And it's all good. Art's about having fun. It's about being creative and expressing yourself and discovering new things and learning new skills along the way. So we'll just keep going, adding the dark yellow into the middle of our stars. Or like I say, if you only have one yellow, then you could put orange in the middle of the stars and have yellow on the outside, or you might decide to be different and do it the complete opposite way around. And if that's what you want to do, absolutely fine. Roll with it. It's your picture. I did consider using oil pastels to do this with, because oil pastels are such fun, especially when you're doing landscapes and slightly more abstract pieces. But the technique in using them is quite different. Obviously, it involves the smudging and blending, which is kind of different. And I figured most of you probably wouldn't be using pastels today. So that's why I stuck with the paint for this one. Although if you guys would like to see me doing a pastels type class, then that could be arranged. Some dark yellow into the little stars. They kind of look like fried eggs at the moment. The sun's moving around and it's going to start making it difficult. Hopefully it won't impede your vision too much. Right, so once you've got your dark centers on all of your stars, you can go back and do the lighter colors around outside. Nope. So I've got some little stars at the bottom to do. How are you guys getting on? Are you still doing stars? Or are you all done? Am I just being the slow coach? Okay. So once we've got all of our stars done, we're going to start working on the sky. So we can move on to using our blues. Okay, so we have our stars done. Now, starting from the top and working our way down, we actually start with the darker blue at the top. So, yeah, depending on what you have. I mean, grown-ups, if you want to add in shades of other colors, purples, blacks, whatever, you can do. But I would generally say just start with a kind of like a midnight blue, or just one of the dark ones, or a navy blue. In the original painting, I think it is quite dark at the very top, but it blends down into more colors. But really, for today's workshop, we're just going to try and keep it simple. So if you have a dark blue and a light blue, that's what we're going to use, okay? But obviously, if you want to add in more colors, then you absolutely can do. So let me see. Let's go with a deep blue. And because I'm using my watercolors, I'm kind of limited with my options. With my acrylic paints, I have more of a selection of shades. Obviously, watercolors you can build up and you can blend. But we'll go with this kind of deep blue color. Ooh, that is quite deep blue. So this top section, so up to where we did our first swirl, so the background behind all of these stars that we've just done is going to become this deep blue color. So you can start adding in your dark night sky. Oh, I totally just threw my paintbrush. See, even us grown-ups have accidents and splatter our pictures with paint. But it's all fine, because you can fix that. Now remember, when you get to between these two stars, you have the spike of your tree stump going on here. So you don't want to paint that blue, because that's going to be in browns and blacks and things. I haven't got any more regular courses scheduled as such. However, there is something new and exciting coming. And it's being launched, but it's available as of today, basically. I have created an online art club, basically. So it's a membership, it's a brand new membership, which gives you a whole bunch of different stuff, really. There's two live workshops a month. So basically every other weekend, there's a live workshop where one of the workshops each month will actually be making our own journals. Now, I don't know if you've ever made a journal before, like a sketchbook, like an art journal, not a journal for writing in, unless, of course, you want to use it for that, but like an art journal. So like a little mini sketchbook, but actually making our own out of whatever paper you want to use, whatever card you have laying around. I very much believe in creating art using things that you already have at home. I'm sure I have some expensive art materials, but I also use a lot of stuff just recycling, paper and cardboard, cereal packets, whatever I could get my hands on, pebbles that are laying around. So the first, in fact, do I have them to hand? I could show you one. Bear with me a second. You carry on painting. I'll just grab one of the little journals to show you. So I created, I trialed a few different ways of doing it, but I found a really, really easy way to do bookbinding. So hang on, which camera? This camera. So this is just one of the little sketchbooks that I've created, and they're actually stitched together. So we use a super simple, I don't know if you can see that on the screen, a super simple bookbinding technique where you just use a needle and thread and create a couple of, the signatures. So we've used some coloured card for the outside and just some simple paper inside. But the idea is that it's created enough pages so that every day for that month, you can create a piece of artwork. And every day in the membership, you'll be given a daily prompt, like a daily art challenge of something that you can create. And on the other live workshop, there'll be a variety of different things. So some of them might be painting and things like this. I think for the beginning of the membership, what I'm going to do is more like this, where we'll kind of simplify the classics and recreate. So some of my other favorites are things like The Scream by Edvard Munch. And that's another one that I have as a mural in my house. Art journal making and simplifying the classics are what's going to be at the beginning of the lives. But in between the lives, on the other 2 weekends of the month, you will also have a pre-recorded video class, which will have lots of other fun kind of crafting things, lots of projects that maybe take a little bit longer that I can't really do live. So things like creating pen pots out of paper mache, and things that need drying time, things that you need to kind of leave for a while and come back to, but that I can time lapse in a recorded video so that you can literally just kind of pause it and come back to it once your project is kind of at that stage. So yeah, it's designed, this launch that we're doing at the moment is mainly aimed at kind of children and young people with kind of support from their parents. And I am considering doing a more adult orientated tier to it as well. But that said, I actually think that even a lot of adults would get a lot out of the classes and challenges and things that are involved in it. See, art is in my view, art is one of those things that you can make it as simple or as complicated as you want. And so the idea of the art challenges is to do exactly that, is to let your imagination run wild and kind of create whatever comes to you. So there's things like collage challenges, there's fun kind of challenges, like, drawing with your non-dominant hand and trying to create things out of just one shape or just one color. Some of the things would probably be more challenging to adults than they would to children, because children just seem to have this innate ability to create, and they have these like magnificent imaginations. In fact, when I was putting the program together, my children came up with some fantastic ideas, things that I would never have thought of. And so, yeah, I think as much as it is currently aimed at parents and children or teenagers, I think actually everybody would get a lot from it. And although I am going to create a more specific adult tier at some point, I think anybody could get benefit from doing the challenges. But yeah, the idea is that you create your art journal at the beginning of the month, and then each day you follow the challenges that are going to be set in well, they're on the website, but they'll also be in a private Facebook group so that everybody can actually share pictures of their stuff if they want to and get feedback. So you do that each day in your journal. And then what the idea is that at the end of the year, if you stuck with us from the beginning, at the end of the year, we take your 12 monthly journals that you've created, and I will show you how to actually bind those 12 kind of softback journals into one big hardback keepsake journal, where you can basically you'll have this big kind of treasure trove of all of the art that you've created over the 12 months. And you'll see from doing the different challenges, from learning different skills, just how far you've come in your art journey. So there is teaching involved in it, and there are some workshops that will, teach you new skills, but it's also about encouraging you to use your own imagination and tap into that kind of natural creativity that is within you, and sort of help you to develop that and to be inspired and to create that kind of safe space of creativity where you can just relax and let go of all of the stresses of the day and things that you're worried about, and just really chill and create something pretty. So if anybody is interested in the membership, as I say, you get two live workshops a month and 2 pre-recorded workshops a month, and daily art challenges, and obviously ongoing support in that private Facebook group, and any other ad hoc lives and things I decide to do. It's just $22 a month, and for that you get access to all of that. And each month that the workshops and things are running, they all get kind of archived, so you'll have access as the months go by. You'll be able to go back and look through all of the challenges. You'll be able to go and watch replays of all of the lives. So even if you can't make the live, you'll still have access to it. You'll have continued access to all of the recorded ones, the pre-recorded ones. So if any of you are interested in signing up for that, all you have to do is go to the website, go to inspiringamy.com, and there is a page that is titled Get Arty with Amy. And that will give you the links to sign up for the membership. So yes, in answer to your question, Elisa, there's going to be lots of new workshops and things coming, but for the time being, they're not going to be publicly available because they're going to be for the members of the new membership. But I am very much looking forward to that. And as I say, because this is the first time that I'm running a membership, anyone that signs up, you're going to be like founding members, and you will actually help to shape the future of the membership, because it's important to me that anybody that signs up for it is actually getting what they need. And if some of the challenges are too difficult, we can maybe drop some of those. If some of them are getting a bit too boring, we can change them. If you guys have got ideas for pre-recorded workshops that you'd like to see done, or you have a favorite classic painting that you want simplified, your feedback is absolutely vital and valid. And per child or per family? Per family. So you could have half a dozen children and you would still only pay 22 a month. It is per family. I want to make it as affordable and as accessible as possible, because I know that people are struggling right now. You know, I know that people are struggling financially. I know that there's a lot of stress. I know that people's mental health has been affected. There's a lot of depression. There's higher suicide rates. That, you know, there's a lot going on that, you know, is forcing people into this kind of stress, fear, state. And if I can help those people to improve their mental state, and to, even if it's just to create a space for them to escape that chaos for a little while, to help them to create a space of calm, to give them something to distract themselves from all of the negativity that's going on in the world for a little while, then it's absolutely worth it. Oh, also, for anyone that is interested in signing up, you have two options when it comes to paying. You can either pay 22 a month, which is just like a rolling monthly subscription, or you can choose the annual sign up option, which is 222.20. So you actually get 2 months free. So you pay for 10 months of the year up front, and you get 2 months free. So you have the two options. For those of you that are able to pay annually, you get some free months. For those of you that need a more economic option, then you can pay monthly. It's all good. So coming back to our painting, as I said, in this night sky, you can kind of have fun with it. You can make more swirls, more marks. You can have intentional brush strokes or pen marks. You really can kind of create something that's unique. And if you want to add more shades in, or you want to go over certain parts, although obviously if you're using marker pens, don't go over them too much or you'll end up with holes in your paper. That's the downside of using marker pens, unfortunately. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our next kind of swirls down here. So this is where you want to kind of change the tone of the blue. So if you've only got two blues, then this is where you could go for your light blue. If you have a mid blue, if you have something between your dark and your light blue, then this is where you would use your mid blue. Okay, so we're going from dark to a bit lighter to a bit lighter. But if you only have the two, then for this swirl and the next part, you can just use your lighter one. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my lighter blue for these swirls here. And because of the way I've drawn it, what we're going to do is this piece, I'm going to follow it down because I've left a gap here. So I'm going to carry on my darker blue underneath, because my swirl, I'm following my lines that I've drawn, and so you guys may have the same thing. So if you have space, I might be the one that's running behind now because I've been too busy chattering away to you and not painting or not concentrating on my painting as much. You guys are actually further ahead than me. But basically, we're filling in the sky. So however you want your sky to look. Basically, we're working down, we're still just following this line, this first, well, the first swirl we did over here, and this first line kind of down here. This is kind of where we want it all to come together now. And obviously these lines underneath this is where the sky and the land start to meet. So that's where our colors change again. And then I think what we'll do for the next swirl, the next line across, we'll also go in with the light blue on that one too. So we've got a mixture of this darker blue with kind of swirls and washes of light blue in it. So the next section down, we'll do the light blue on that one too. Obviously, if you are actually painting, especially if you're using watercolors, but if even to a certain extent with acrylics, you can obviously blend your shades in a little bit more, and you can add more depth if you want to. Obviously, I have permanent marker lines in between mine, so I can't really blend my colors very well here because they are divided. But obviously, for those of you that are painting properly with just pencil guidelines, you can blend one shade into another, and so your sky colors can really just kind of flow one into the other and look really pretty. One thing I did consider doing as a workshop, or maybe as a, I don't know, a live or a pre-recorded something visual somewhere, was to actually do some landscapes, like how to, well, more skies, like as in how to do sunrises and sunsets using different mediums. So showing the blending abilities of like acrylics versus watercolors, pastels, versus crayons, things like that. So kind of trying to recreate the same sunrise or sunset with different mediums to show how some of them are so much more effective and how some mediums just cannot be blended. Does that sound like something you guys might be interested in? Would you be interested in doing sunrises and sunsets and seeing the differences between the different types of art materials? It's always nice to get feedback from other artists or from other people that are just interested in learning more, whether you kind of call yourself an artist or not, doesn't really matter. If you enjoy doing art and experimenting with different things and learning different skills, it's all good. Would you have a favorite classic painting that you would like me to do a similar workshop to this, as in, simplifying another painting? Do you have a particular one that you would like to see that done with? And I think for this last kind of swirly pattern, I'm going to go back in with my dark blue. Now it's up to you. You could switch to green at this point or to brown, because this is where, as I say, this is where the sky meets the land and where the hills start. But I'm thinking for this one, I'm going to go in with dark blue on this swirl, and then all of this is going to be my greenery and potentially some sort of brown work, some land. This is going to be sort of hill and grassland, as is down here. So I'm going to stick with sky for this particular swirl, this last one. I'm going to go back in with my dark blue, and then we're going to switch to green. But it's up to you. If you guys want to switch to green or brown a step earlier, that's absolutely fine. Let's say art's about interpretation and inspiration. You know, we're not copying Van Gogh's picture exactly. We're not copying every single step of his process. We're taking his idea and we're making one of our own, inspired by Van Gogh. But everybody's painting is going to look different. And also what you can do as an added extra, I'm not going to do it today, but if you want to, once your picture's all fully dry, whether you're using pens or paints, if you've got like a gold gel pen or some gold acrylic paint or something really kind of sparkly and shiny, you could even add in details around the stars, or even silver. I mean, gold kind of works because obviously the shades of yellow that we're using. But if you do have gold and you wanted to kind of give them like an outline in gold or something, they're the optional things that you can do to make your picture extra jazzy or snazzy if you want to. Keep forgetting which blue I'm supposed to be dipping my brush into. Too busy talking to you guys. Light blue, dark blue, it's fine. They all mix together well. I think that's the thing. Like, I try not to take my art so seriously. Like, there are times where I do have to be kind of super focused. Obviously, if I'm creating like an order for a customer, then obviously that gets my full attention and I want everything to be kind of spot on. But when I'm doing art just for fun, I'm much more kind of laid back about it. And if I happen to stick my paintbrush in the wrong paint, I just kind of go with it and make it work somehow. I was doing a live a while ago on my Facebook page where I was painting a pebble, and it was of a chap sat in a yoga pose meditating, and I totally painted his leg in the wrong place. And nobody even pointed it out to me. They all just let me carry on painting it. I don't think anybody even noticed. And it wasn't until I'd kind of got to the point where I was sort of painting another bit and I was like, oh, actually, that leg's not meant to be there. But it was fine because I just rectified it. And once the pebble was finished, you couldn't even tell that there'd been an issue. But that's the point, you know, even people that are seen as sort of professional artists or whatever you want to call them, they still make mistakes. We still mess up. But it's kind of knowing how to work with those mistakes and either fix them or just find a way of working around them. Like, it doesn't matter if you mess up. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes. Your whole piece isn't ruined because, you know, you put one thing in the wrong place or you pick the wrong shade of a color to paint something. Art's meant to be expressive and fun. It's meant to be fun. So definitely really no rules. There's guidelines, there's things that you can obviously do to create a certain effect, but generally speaking, there aren't any rules, because you can just, the only rules that come into art are ones that you sort of impose on it yourself, really. If you're trying to create something specific, then there may be rules, but if you're just open to creating something inspirational, something fun, then there's absolutely no need for rules whatsoever. Right, in these bottom parts, we're going to have browns and greens. So I think I'm going to go with, well, this bit over here is going to be mainly green. So yeah, we're going to mix in some greens and browns, I think, down here. So it's entirely up to you how you do this. This kind of bushy part at the front, I think I'm going to do in a slightly darker green, maybe. Let's have a look. Well, that's quite a light green. Maybe I need to add a bit of brown to it. As I said, I'm kind of limited at the moment with the colour selection that I've got, but hopefully I can mix it enough to make it darker. Let's add a touch of brown. There we go. Now, obviously, you guys that are using pens and things, you can just pick the colour that you want. You can pick the dark green or the brown, or and if you're using watercolours or acrylics, acrylics are harder to mix, but you can mix them in a palette. Watercolours, obviously, you can mix to a certain extent on your page. So depending on what you're using, you can create different effects. So we want kind of, basically this bottom part behind the buildings is all just kind of earthy colours. Different shades of green, different shades of brown. It's land, it's grass, it's hills, it's bushes. So really you can pick the different shades and which bits are what colour, really. But yeah, I'm sticking with sort of greens and browns. Put some brown in the background, because it's farmland as well, so there's kind of fields of, like, ploughed fields and plant fields. You know what, I've recreated this piece so many times, and every time it comes out differently. I use different shades, I use different materials, I opt for doing the different colours in the different places. But you know what, every piece I still really love. Every time I've done it, I've really enjoyed it, and it's created an interesting and different effect. Each one's unique. Okay. Now, when it comes to the buildings, again, you kind of have options. Now, I've done the buildings in different colours on different pieces. Now, on my mural that I have in my living room, I actually chose to do the buildings in blue. In the original painting, there are various shades of browns and dark creams and all sorts of kind of darker colors, which some of them are kind of difficult to make out, but it's up to you what color you you go with for the houses. If you have a couple of shades of brown, or you want to do brown buildings with red roofs, or if you want to just do them in the shades of blue like I do, that's fine. It really is kind of a choice that you're going to have to make. I quite like the effect of having them in the blue. What I tend to do is use the lighter blue for the building, and a slightly darker blue for the roof. And then where I've got the doors and the windows, I do those in the dark yellow that I used for the middle of the stars. And it just kind of gives them this sort of slightly glowing, lit up look. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do them in the light and dark blue. But if you guys want to do your houses in like shades of brown, or I wouldn't put red on, I mean, you can. I wouldn't put red on this piece myself, because obviously the whole thing is kind of in blues and greens and browns. There's not very much red. Obviously, we've got a little bit of brown thrown in, but the whole piece is more sort of in blues and yellows and greens. So the red might kind of stick out a bit. But if that's what you feel inspired to do, then you go with it. As I said, there are no rules, but it is about sort of knowing which colours go well together, and what really kind of works for you for what you're doing. So I would go with either blues or browns, personally. You choose. As I said, the original ones are mainly in shades of brown, I think, from what I can make out. But I just quite like the look in the blue. So that's what I do. So what we need to do is we need to now do our tree bark, our abstract piece of nature. Now, what I find the easiest way to do this is, it's basically, this is in the foreground of the painting. So it's literally like the closest thing to us, but it's also kind of cast into a shadow because all of the stars and the moon are behind it. So the side that we see is just dark. It's basically a silhouette against the night sky. But in the original painting, you can still kind of make out different tones and textures in it. So I've found over the years, the easiest way to do it is if we go in with a relatively dark brown, if you have one, and then we could add a few details of black. Or if you wish, if it's easier for you, you can literally just do it as a solid black silhouette, and that also really looks effective. It makes it pop against the colors in the background. So it's up to you. You can either go in with brown, do a layer of brown, and then add in lots of kind of lines that follow our swirls and spikes in black, or you can just go in and color that in black. Up to you. So once I've finished putting this layer of brown down, because I'm using watercolors, I can go in and add black and actually let some of it kind of smudge together. If you're using pens, then color it all in brown. And then, as I say, you can just add in lines. You can follow like the line, like leave a little gap. So you do like a line, gap, a line, gap, a line, gap. And so you've got that sort of breakup of the brown and the black. Or just kind of color in certain sections of it black, up to you. So I'm gonna add some darker bits in. We'll see. I'll kind of do it as I was talking about for the pens, but it'll, because I'm using watercolors, it's going to blend, it's going to blur. So, but you can add, you know, you could try different techniques, different things that work for you. It's, as I say, it does mainly look like a silhouette anyway, so the majority of it is going to be very dark, cast into darkness. So the browns are actually more like highlights, in fact, because you can only just make out the distinction of color if you look hard. So once you've decided you've done enough on your tree trunk, all that really remains left to do is down in this bottom right hand corner, as all proud artists should, is to sign or initial your work. Now, if you're doing that in paint, do it carefully. If you happen to have a pen, then a black pen will be absolutely fine. But, you know, it's your opportunity to put your signature or your initials to your work. You know, this, as I say, this was a very simplified version because I knew that we were going to have lots of youngsters on. I wanted to make it really easy, but you absolutely could redo this and spend twice as long on adding in loads of detail, adding in lots of little individual strokes. You could create a kind of a stitching. You could do it as like a dotted piece where it's all made up of just little dots. There are so many different techniques that you could use to create a completely different look to every piece that you paint. But what I wanted to do was to just show you that, you know, even somebody that has very little painting experience can actually create something to be proud of. Because I think, especially with our youngsters today, they feel that they can't do it, that they're not good enough. Like, I've heard it so many times, you know, even from my own children. Oh, Mum, I wish I could draw as good as you. Oh, Mum, how come you can paint so good? It's like, but you can too. You know, it's having that confidence to create something that maybe you think you can't, but having a go anyway and enjoying the process. And I guarantee you'll end up with something awesome at the end of it. And as I say, if any of you are interested in finding out more about the upcoming membership, then you can go to inspiringamy.com and go to the page headed Get Arty with Amy. That's me. You can come and have lots of fun with me. On the weekends, we do lives and pre-recorded lives, and every day in between, literally the 6 days in between every video that you get, you will have prompts in the Facebook group and on the website that you can follow, so you can do your own little challenges every day. And you know what? Some of them are so cool. You're going to have so much fun with them. So absolutely, 2 places. Go to the website to find out more about the membership, and go to the Facebook page to send me your artwork, because it's amazing and I want everybody to see how cool you guys are.
Thanks very much, Amy. That was great fun.
You're very welcome, Sue. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Just gave me a chance to try out my watercolour, because I got the same set as you have. Tessa bought me these for Christmas, so I was
Really good, aren't they?
making use of it.
I just got. I haven't finished the buildings yet.
That's okay.
Because I got a bit behind, as it were. So I just need to do the details on the buildings.
Yeah, absolutely. You can take all the time you need to add in more detail.
Yeah.
Done really well. Well done.
But thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
That was really good. Thanks very much.
You enjoyed it, didn't you? That's good.
If I do some more like this, would you like to join in those ones too?
Can we do some more like this?
Yeah. Cool.
You're going to say thank you.
I did. So
Yeah, did you enjoy it? You loved it.